The Egyptian cat goddess Bastet was the pharaoh's protector. The Egyptian cat cult was unique in antiquity. There were plenty of creatures in the Egyptian pantheon. Hundreds of gods had animal forms. But Bastet the cat stood out for her popularity. Bastet was the goddess of love, passion, joy, women, and pleasure. She was ferocious and sensual. Bastet also held the title of the Eye of Ra. This honor was only bestowed on select deities. It marked them as protectors and avengers. The cult of Bastet grew steadily throughout history. Ultimately, she had her own center of worship. The city of Bubastis was named after her. Bastet's main role was protecting the pharaoh. The cheetah deity Mafdet guarded his chambers. The lioness Sekhmet destroyed his enemies. Bastet the cat murdered the king. In 945 BC, Shoshenq I made Bubastis his personal capital. He began work on a magnificent Bastet temple. It was continued by his son Osorkon II and finished by his grandson Osorkon III. Bastet was usually depicted in one of two forms: a woman with a cat's head, or a cat with no human attributes. This gave rise to the increased worship of domestic cats. Many other animals were revered in Egypt. They were offered as mummified sacrifices to the gods. Among them were baboons, alligators, dogs, ibises, and mongooses. But none came close to the cats. There were specific laws on feline protection. Anyone who killed a cat, even by accident, was put to death. The export of cats from Egypt was banned. An entire government agency was set up to enforce the ban. Agents would track down and return any cats back to Egypt. If a cat died, her owners shaved their eyebrows. This was a symbol of deep mourning. It only ended when their eyebrows grew back. However, all this cat worship crossed the line at some point. Bastet came to dominate the Egyptian idea of cathood. Simply put, they believed that all cats were her manifestations. How can a mere mortal own a goddess? Thus began the practice of sending cats back to heaven en masse. Egyptians mummified millions of cats to appease Bastet. The sheer number of cats required for the sacrifice was immense. Unsurprisingly, this gave rise to a huge cat breeding economy. A vast trading network arose from this business. The breeding and sale of cats were only the tip of the iceberg. There were also statues and burial coffins. There were authorized mummification officials. There was a market for cat food and embalming oils. Many cat-only necropolises have been discovered. Each of them held hundreds of thousands of mummified cats. They were buried in elaborate cat coffins. At least 10,000 cats were mummified each year. Yet cats were still revered. Bastet worshippers gathered each year for a large festival. Around 700,000 people would descend on Bubastis. They'd have lavish celebrations with lots of wine. Rituals and sacrifices were the culmination of the day. They were held at the enormous temple. Bastet is mentioned in the famous pyramid texts. She's invoked as the royal protector. It's written that the pharaoh was nursed by Bastet herself.